Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon tonight. We appreciate you being with us. If you are just joining us, we're going to bring you up to speed with all that's going on. It's 10 o'clock on the East Coast, 7 o'clock on the West Coast, and if you are just joining us, 3 nuclear facilities inside of Iran have been struck, and according to President Trump, it looks like Fordow, that was a site that was buried deep in a mountain, that was the most difficult site that Israel needed help with, is completely gone tonight, with 6 bunker buster bombs being used in that case to take out those sites. On the other 2 sites where the Israelis have taken out about 75% of their nuclear capability, enrichment capability, the president used and authorized the use of Tomahawk missiles, and they were fired from about 400 miles away from U.S. submarines. All missions seem to be a complete success. This phase of the mission seems to be a complete success. But we go back to Trey Yangst. He's in Israel tonight with the latest information there. Obviously, like the United States has gamed out any possible retaliation, so too have the Israelis, I am sure, Trey.
Yeah, Sean, absolutely. Right now, Israel is bracing for the possibility that Iran responds to these American strikes targeting the country's nuclear facilities. We're also tonight getting the first reaction from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He released a lengthy statement praising President Trump for these strikes. He says, quote, "Tonight, President Trump and the U.S. acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel, thank you. The forces of civilization, thank you. God bless America, God bless Israel, and God bless our unshakable alliance." Sean?
I'll come right back to you, but first, let's go to the White House. This is a Fox News alert. Here's the president.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raising-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight. Not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
President Trump at the White House with Vice President Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. The President went on in a statement, a very powerful statement, ending with him thanking God and the United States military. He praised the military of Israel, the military of the United States, said hopefully we will no longer need their services. He also said, and he had stated this many times going back to 2011, that the #1 state sponsor of terror cannot have nuclear weapons. And tonight, that threat has been removed. A spectacular success, completely, totally obliterated the nuclear capability of Iran. And they worked as a team, meaning Israel and the U.S., like no other team before. And the president said it again, hopefully the military, that option will no longer be necessary. That choice will lie with whatever remaining leadership we have in Iran as of tonight. We don't know the answer to that. A lot of top military leaders have been taken out. Reports today that 3 other top Iranian Revolutionary Guard generals have been taken out. And one included one of the organizers of what happened on October 7, 2023 in Israel. President Trump just addressing the nation. We go back to Trey Yangst. He is in Israel tonight. I would expect as we head into dawn that Prime Minister Netanyahu will be addressing his nation probably in the early morning hours.
Yeah, Sean, absolutely. We're witnessing a historic moment in the Middle East right now that has a real chance to change the status quo for the region. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has just released his first remarks following the American strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities. He says tonight President Trump and the U.S. acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel, thank you. He goes on to talk about the close coordination between the Americans and the Israelis. But we just heard from President Trump there speaking at the White House, and he made clear what he has effectively done, Sean, is taken away Iran's leverage in any sort of conversations moving forward. Because remember, Iran had 2 key levers to pull. They had their ballistic missile program that has been largely decimated by Israeli strikes, and they had their nuclear program that has been largely decimated by American strikes. And tonight the region is in a new place. There is a new path forward, and President Trump is giving the Iranians yet another chance to step back from what would be more American strikes and Israeli strikes targeting what's left of IRGC leadership and what's left of the political leadership inside Iran. Now, I spoke tonight with an Israeli security source asking what the mood was like in the security echelon here in Israel. That source said everyone is just repeating, God bless America, God bless President Trump. They describe this as euphoria and historic for these officials, saying there is a sense of relief. Remember, the Israelis largely considered Iran as the big war that they would face. The past 9 days have been incredibly difficult for the Israeli people as they've come under ballistic missile fire following the launch of this Israeli operation against those nuclear sites and against top nuclear scientists inside of Iran. But tonight, the region has changed. The nuclear sites have been largely destroyed, according to President Trump. There still is a minor threat of ballistic missile fire, but we understand that tonight Israel remains on high alert. They are entering into a new state of emergency, changing the Home Front Command guidelines for the civilian population here of more than 9 million people, trying to limit public gatherings tomorrow, canceling workplaces and schools, understanding that Iran may decide to respond. But again, the latest information, Sean, that we have here tonight, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reacting to these American strikes that targeted Iranian nuclear facilities, Isfahan, Natanz, and Fordow, the places that the Iranians were enriching uranium, trying to get closer to weapons-grade material that they would then use in a nuclear bomb. President Trump announcing tonight from the White House those sites have been destroyed, and Iran no longer has the leverage that they had just 24 hours ago, going into any future conversations with the Americans or the Europeans across the world. Sean?
All right, Trey Youngst in Israel tonight. We'll get back to you. I want to go back to President Trump. He just made a statement. He addressed the nation a short time ago. The U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and he went on to describe in great detail what happened. Everybody heard those names for years, and he also did mention Farhon, the third site that was hit. Both Farhon and Natanz were hit with Tomahawk missiles from a U.S. submarine some 400 miles away. Fordow, that was the one that was buried deep inside the mountain. That was hit with not 1, not 2, but 6 bunker buster bombs. The conventional thinking leading into tonight, if tonight were to occur, was that we would only need 2. He was able to assure the nation tonight that the strikes were a spectacular military success and that Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. And Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks would be greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying, and by the way, they were saying it on Friday, death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. I went over that in the last hour. All the incidences, and I didn't even list them all, of all the Americans that have been killed because of Iranian military activity. That was their specialty, he went on. We lost over 1,000 people and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their General Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. And then he congratulated Prime Minister Netanyahu and how they worked as a team, perhaps like no other team has ever worked before. We've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they have done. Most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots, those that flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope so. And they went on to congratulate all of the people involved. And he said, this cannot continue. There will either be peace or there will be great tragedy for Iran, far greater than we have witnessed over the last 2 days. And he said, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all by far and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision and speed and skill. And most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There's never been a military that could do what took place a little while ago. And he went on to thank everybody and ended with thanking God. And I want to say this, we love you, God. We love our great military. Please protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel. God bless America. And with that said, we know Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, we got his first remarks as well. President Trump and I often say peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. And that, the first, I'm sure, of what will be another statement that we expect sometime tomorrow from the Prime Minister of Israel. Joining us now, Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullins is with us. Senator, there is no doubt we are watching history tonight. There is no doubt that I agree with the President. This is one of the most skilled, important, imperative, peacekeeping, peace through strength keeping operations in the last 40 years. And certainly the reign of terror in Iran, whether they know it or not, is coming to a quick end. They will decide their own fate. So far, they have rejected any and all opportunity for peace. We'll see what happens in the days to come. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Sean, there's a lot to unpack here, and I completely agree. Peace through strength is what President Trump has been talking about from day one. I can tell you every one of our allies in that region is extremely thankful, and those that aren't our allies in that region are extremely thankful. All of our enemies around the world are extremely fearful right now. I think you pointed out earlier, North Korea is, let me tell you, the back of the hair just stood up on their neck. You have China that's paying attention, you have Putin that's paying attention. They understand that we can deliver when we need to, and we can destroy things and targets that threaten the United States. Now, keep in mind that this regime, since 1979, has killed over 1,000 American, either civilians or service members. And just since 2023, I mean, in 2023 and 2024, they attacked us multiple times underneath Biden because Biden was considered weak, all because of the Afghan with disastrous withdrawal, and they continued to attack us. President Trump had to reset, and once we got eyes on the program, and what I mean by eyes on the program, underneath the Biden administration, they were not giving us direct information. Even in March, when they were doing the handoff, we were not getting direct information of what was actually going on in Iran. Keep in mind, the Biden administration was trying to appease them. They were trying to say, hey, nothing to look at, while they gave them billions of dollars from the taxpayers of the United States. And what President Trump did is he made this a priority because 10 years ago, when he came down the escalators in New York, he said that there was no way Iran could ever have a nuclear weapon. And he has made that a priority in this administration. Once we got eyes on and saw how big of a threat Iran actually was, it became a point of urgency, and President Trump just put the exclamation on it and said, you're done bullying us and chanting death to America.
Let me ask you, Senator, he said in his Truth Social post, and by the way, you were talking about the Iranian attacks on Americans or their proxy attacks on Americans, and we're scrolling that now for our audience.
That's right.
He said in his there will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran. He said, you should have listened because he gave them 60 days. Both he and Steve Witkoff, his Mideast Special Envoy, Secretary of State Rubio, everybody went all in to give them the opportunity to give up their nuclear ambition. They were told directly what the consequences would be. Now tonight they're living out those consequences. The next phase of this, which I know from all of my sources, the next phase of this is already in action, and that is the president is protecting our assets in the region. We already know that there are Iranian terror cells that Biden, Harris, and Mayorkas allowed in the country, so we've got to be on super vigilant alert here on the homeland. Of course, you know, Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and everybody's trying to get rid of them, but phase 2 is already underway, and that is to protect our assets. Give the Iranians an opportunity for peace once again. You know, he gave an opportunity to them 2 days ago, and yesterday they said no negotiations. I would imagine that probably moved up the timeline from 14 days